why invest your own resources? We're talking time and employees, like hours of work.
Create this report at the end of the week and month and all that stuff. Yeah, we all been there, and we know how enjoying the process is all about.
88% of my work being automated because of ecoHQ.
No, I think it's, as I said, it's always an understanding of the business problem and how the business needs certain aspect of the operations or a strategy or planning that needs to be managed. Patiently creating and iterating it through. You can't get everything right in the first shot as a Lego block, like one after the other. To cope up with that, we created another version of ERP called ecoHQ.
So Jigar, ecoHQ, what is it and where are we with it today?
Well, ecoHQ, it's hard to define in one line. Obviously, the journey started years back, but I think what I can explain you and give you kind of a starting point to understand what it's all about. It's a culmination of all the ideas that we have poured in over a period of time to run the different aspects of our operational aspect of the business, as well as managing the key information in the moment, as well as piled up together over a period of time to be used as a critical data point to drive the business decisions based on the information rather than just going blank.
How long have you been I know that this is one of those. So I remember I started my first interaction with ecoHQ about 6 months ago, and still it always feels like that I don't know enough about it. There's always something new that I'm finding out about it, a new feature. It could be a new experience. And there's so many, we're always talking if there is a problem, I have a question with regards to project management, go and check on ecoHQ. Anything regards to sales, go check on ecoHQ. Anything regarding HR, attendance, anything, go to ecoHQ. It feels like that's practically one platform that's running the entire business. And our the company itself, it's we're talking 600 to 1,000 employee company. It's a decent size, I would say a little above average size. So how were you able to adapt to so many people, and how far have you come in the sense, how many years has it been?
I think I vividly remember the concept really started out around 2007, I would say, roughly, if I vividly remember. And it was nowhere close to how it was perceived to be compared to what it is right now. Because our needware at that point in time was very simple. I mean, simple obviously comparing right now with what we have. But back in the day, it was itself a challenge because we were using certain softwares to manage the different aspect of the business, invoicing and timesheets and inquiry management and all that stuff. Most of that stuff was being done in Excel files or notes or something like that, or emails, per se. I think gradually as we grew the business, we felt the need of organizing the information in a way, to an extent where it gives that visibility in a structured way. But then soon when we started defining what we wanted to do and integrate and replace those all third-party systems that we were using to have more control and customization abilities of what our business demanded back in the day, it wasn't late for us to realize that we cannot build the system for the same team size that we were having. We were always on a lookout for two problems parallelly, not just integrating all the current data points that we wanted to organize, but also wanted to make sure that how do we make an ecosystem such a way that when we grow, how we would end up operating. So we've never thought of designing a system for the 100 or 150 people that we were back in the day. We were always designing a system that how would the system would look like if there were 500 people using the system. So we were always on the lookout for creating something that's expandable because we knew our businesses would change. You can't be operating the business in the same way that you were operating back in the day with a smaller team size, and when the team will grow up. You'll have different structure, different hierarchies, different data points, different ways of working, maybe even totally different systems to work with. So, but I think at the core, we knew what we were dealing with. So I think we were pretty much grounded in terms of what is it that we, at the end of the day, wanted to manage.
Considering that there are third-party softwares out there, I wouldn't say they're anywhere close to ecoHQ in terms of their wholesomeness, but why not outsource? Why invest your own resources? We're talking time and employees, hours of work.
I think it's a very good question. It depends at which juncture of your business you are into and what sort of systems that you need. I mean, if your business demands something that is templatized or pretty generic in a way, then obviously you can opt for third-party systems to start with. And I think it's a good starting point, to be honest, before starting to invest and thinking on to creating something out of the ground by investing time, money, efforts, and, iterations, as we call it. I think it's a good test bed to have a ready-made system work out so that you know what you want and what's missing. Mm-hmm. And then depending on what you need, what's not out of the box available in the product that are generally made to have, to be like, one size fits all. Yeah. That's where the thing starts to change. And that's what happened with us as well. So we were using Blink Sale, we were using Timesheet, we were using Active Collab for project management and everything. But then we lack the integration and kind of, talking mechanism and conversations between the systems so that we can relate one thing to the other, which were completely siloed. And then we obviously get one dimension to view it from a specific entity that the software would manage, but then we didn't really context of the other side of the business, how it affects this entity. That was the missing part. And that's when we started creating systems. And so we started with invoicing, and then invoices required customer information. So we started building out client information management. Client information was based out of project. So we built out project management. The project required team management. So we built out employee management. And then we thought about, if we have everything, why don't we build a CRM so that everything that funnels into the business also gets transparency. So that's how it's kind of, evolved over a period of time. So to answer your question, obviously there are certain systems that manages all this aspect in a way. I mean, I'm talking about 2007, we had limited options. Now we have more options. But I think the boiling end of the question is how does it integrate with how you want your business to run? And I think a different perspective of the business depends on the kind of business you do at the end of the day. If you're selling products, there might be set rules and workflows that you want to, keep it over a period of time. And the scale, the definition of scale is very important to understand. For you, the scale is just replicating the current system. It's not going to be challenging as such. But the scale requires different dynamics of the business to change. Then obviously, then you need more control in your systems. I think that's what the best part with systems and softwares as it evolves over a period of time. It stimulates more demand in your mind to look at the different perspective of the existing stuff. I think what I have seen within my work area that I have dealt with over a period of time in different channels and different areas of business, including project management and sales and marketing, and even the other side that obviously connects to my workplace, is the understanding of how you should be looking at the business as evolve over a period of time. Because then you start you start exploring new ways to look at the information and what is it that's already there that makes more meaning. Certain times information becomes siloed and then it doesn't make any sense. But that's what a good system is all about. When you dig down, you have different ways to deal with it. You can find new meanings and you can actually turn things up quite efficiently.
What was the time during the development or growth of the business when you thought that this was actually going to be a stagnant solution and you might have to look for other alternatives, but then eventually found out that no, this solution actually was able to integrate with the other softwares within your company?
I think we hit that tipping point about 3 to 4 years ago when the systems actually evolved, the modules evolved, the hierarchy and the interconnectivity between new stuff that was piled up onto it evolved, and it was a point where we couldn't really scale it up in the as-is environment that it was built with, because obviously you can't scale up a system that was built and conceptualized in 2007 exactly. in about 2020. So during the COVID period, that's when we had the breakthrough that we will use the platform that we called as an ERP of IndiaNIC, used as a platform and a backend engine, and then completely rebuild the front-end wrappers, because there were a lot of systems that were and modules that we built over a period of time were obsolete and not used, but they were still occupying space, and it was not easy to use as a part of user experience, and especially when new people joining, there is a lot of training overload that we had over a period of time. So to cope up with that, we created another version as a microsystem of ERP called ecoHQ.
Okay, which
That's
I
how
know
the
as,
that's the thing that is better known as the system. Is it still uses the backbone of the ERP system that we created, which has a silo of information and core entities that I will talk soon about, are still maintained, but it has a more meaningful and uncluttered way of using and managing that information. Addition to it is in the ecoHQ version, it has a better viewing and control of what you look at for yourself and what you look at for your team. So it's always a layered approach that you can always see, which was difficult in the previous systems.
I remember that we also developed a system that was very recent, the workspace, the EcoScrum, which is my personal favorite tool to use. And the fact that it actually connects to ecoHQ, how easy or how difficult was it to integrate when you started integrating in the beginning? And how easy or difficult was it to integrate current workspace or EcoScrum into the ecoHQ?
So the way we organize the projects in our ERP and the ecoHQ combined together is we have different aspects of the project that are always there. So we work with different models in terms of fulfilling our projects. Sometimes projects are time bound. They have fixed timeline, fixed budget, and fixed resources to align to, and then they work according to what the scope is all about. Certain projects are time and material, which just spans over. There are teams, plug and play teams, and there are customized implementation of the projects, maybe hybrid projects, pure agile. And so being in the service business, it's very fluid. There is no thing written in stone that stays forever. Projects change the course of direction, team members change over a period of time. There's a lot of information management, project information management, and the data information actually keeps on flowing. There are milestones, there are delivery milestones, there are payment milestones, there are invoices, there are timesheets, there are project documents, all sorts of stuff, assignment, looking for the talent when you need the resource for a project. Where you will go, you look for the resource pool, you find the resource with the right skill, matching skill based on availability, if they're on vacation or not, they're available or not, where they're going to release. There are all sorts of combination involved here. So the way EcoScrum actually solves that problem, it just abstracts out the project setup and management part versus the execution workflow. So we didn't want it to interfere into how the project gets developed and how the development plan happens beyond the project plan. Is what EcoScrum is about to handle. But then it still stays in sync with the team members allocated, the Git repo access that is given to them, the project planning, the payment milestone, the high-level deliverables, the project access, and everything is still connected to the ERP. But it's still an abstract tool, so it doesn't really bother the rest of the ecosystem in the ecoHQ. That's why it's called EcoScrum.
EcoScrum, like I also remember there was, when in my conversation with the CK, he also mentioned that the ERP system, now I don't know if ecoHQ and ERP are one and the same, right?
They're one in the same. I think ecoHQ is a modern version of ERP to use. I mean, ecoHQ still uses ERP as a base for core entities and its management. So these 4 entities that I'm talking about, I think just to help you understand what I'm talking about, there are core 4 entities that we manage at the crux of the entire system.
Okay.
There are projects. There are clients, there are employees, and then there are leads, which we call inquiries.
Okay.
So there's sales opportunity, there's sales module, there's a client, there's account management, there's project, there's execution and operational workflow. And then there are employees, which takes care of, HR, operations, and there are other peripheral systems like operations, IT, support, sales, marketing, and everything combined together.
So what prompted you as a person or IndiaNIC as a company, and I feel like at this point it's one and the same, to think that everything had to be integrated within, you had to create a system. Why create a system? Because the integrations do take time.
The answer to the question, why do we need system, is pretty simple. You can't be growing haywire. You need some sort of organization in the work culture. Although you have a lot of freedom, you still want to connect to some point where it creates a trail that it can be measured, it can be observed, and you can even take better decisions once you look at it. So the point is not just monitoring, but it's more about governance, compliance, as well as looking at information the way you want it to perceive like. We don't manage information which we don't want. or we don't really extract it out unless it's required with the meaning. So there are different peripherals and connected parts to the system which gets a specific job done whenever you want to do it. Like, for example, initiating a segment-driven marketing or putting down workflow automations. Like, for example, we have this nice tool that we built out during COVID times is to let people know, not at the end of the day what they worked on, but at the start of the day when they check in, what is it that they're going to work on, so that the reporting managers are well informed. On a usual day, they will huddle up in the boardroom or on a Google Meet or a Zoom call to discuss about things. But COVID changed the things. So what we did is we actually changed and brought that to that advantage, that why be reactive about your work by informing what you did work on something, rather than informing well in advance that you're going to work on today, so that your hurdles can be better managed.
Being proactive.
And that was actually connected to the check-in, HR, and employee module.
Yeah, and that is what I found super interesting. Yeah. So I've been into this like just 7 months or so. I haven't found such a flexible and user-friendly. And when I say user-friendly, I'm talking as an employee. Yeah. Like, I'm talking someone who doesn't know anything about IT, walks into this, adopts this system. And I've felt like it has practically spoiled me for other softwares. Yeah. The reason being, all I have to do is go onto my phone. When I check in, I get a text message saying that like, hey, what are you planning to do for the day? I type in whatever it is, and it literally goes into my ecoScrum workspace. And everybody, especially my line manager, my team, they know exactly what I'm going to be doing for the rest of the day. I don't need to have someone calling me and bothering me like, hey, have you got time? They've got everything listed out in front of them. They would know exactly when I'm going to be available to do whatever it is, flexibly. And I found that extremely flexible. It has spoiled me for every other software. Personally, I feel like a brat at this point. And second and thirdly, the fact that I feel like that it can practically do anything for me. It's as good as having an ERP assistant. Am I making sense?
Yeah,
but I mean, that's for me. That's for me, who had no background in like how things grew. But for you, and the fact that you are in a different part of the organization, you're managing multiple teams, you're practically having to travel around. How do you feel about this?
I think the only way to look at it is, we obviously have an internal discussion, our founder and the other peers, and there are different group heads and directors when we sit across. We always fundamentally believe that it's not you are someone who is driving the system or feeding into the system. We are at a stage where we require and we demand that the system should drive and prompt you to do something, while you still do what you do, and just make sure the system is well aware about something. Like, for example, we are working on a sales module where they will know whom they need to follow up today. I mean, with the recent advancement of AI and the kind of new tools that we are coming up with, we are constantly experimenting and maturing the system in a way, while still using the core of the system that we have built over a period of time, is to see where we can bring in the efficiency while still managing what we do. And the whole goal is not to, because, see, I mean, we have been there. We have been there in our early days. We know how boring it is to feed the data into system where you have this form and that form and this board and this there. Create this report at the end of the week and month and all that stuff. We have all been there, and we know how enjoying the process is all about. But I think at the end of the day, what matters is you need to have certain KPIs in the system. Our goal is to make it easy enough, frictionless, and yet being accurate in a given point in time. So we are using latest tools like, chatbots to collect the information naturally, organically. We are working on creating, one of my colleague Mihir, who has built, actually not built, we are just doing POC right now to query the database in real time to be able to, drive something like, for example, tell me the 5 people that I need to focus on today in the morning. And then it can give you the answer based on what you have filled into the system. So I think we are at a juncture where we are going to change how we work and look at our own work in a perspective. And I think we were able to do it just because we had the foundation system ready. I mean, you can't be reaching 100 unless you walk through the rest of the numbers from 1 to 100. But I think we were able to do it just because we had that ecosystem, and then we had taken an initiative to replace those third-party softwares that we were using in the years.
I feel, and so with that said, you feel that, or in your opinion, do you believe that we are going to approach the stagnant stage with the ecoHQ, or are there integrations coming? What role does ecoHQ, or what role does ecoHQ for you as a solution play in the future, especially with AI that we're building?
I think it obviously it's not for ecoHQ to decide or for me to decide. And obviously, ecoHQ is an integral part of our business. I mean, we can't imagine working or starting our day out because it gives us and drives us with the force and information that we need to focus on at a given point in time from across the different levels.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously, the way the system will evolve is how we operate and look at the business as a part of our operational expectations, as well as how differently the different teams starts to operate. As I said, the core of the business is never going to change, at least not that I see in recent future. But the way we deal with those entities will change. Like, for example, in terms of how I start contacting my follow-ups in my sales, or the tasks that I'm supposed to do, or the invoices that I need to take care of, or some sort of task that I'm working on. Maybe even if you are not on the directly production or billable resource, you are at the back office, but still you need to be organizing yourself, like how many bills I need to pay, what are the pending tasks that I need to make, what are the papers that I need to figure out. So all this stuff will define how we actually use the system over a period of time. There are different areas that it can definitely grow depending on how you expect the thing. I think the fundamental thing is we are confident that we have this base that we can share it out into a different route, into a micro application or a certain thin layer of application without disturbing too many parts of the core, because the entire system is now service oriented architecture, and it's built with all the scalability in mind, and it has all the different API points. We are also having a core API engine, so the core product team of ecoHQ can build out any wires around any systems that you need to connect it with, and then you can, connect in a blink.
So considering that now we have Neura as well, are there any integrations with AI coming up? What are you guys?
We are experimenting. Obviously, we have had success in terms of implementing AI into the overall workflow, as we call it. We have already integrated AI into our chatbots in the morning, Sunshine bot that you get to ask for your planning compared to the timesheets.
I love that.
The timesheets going to be replaced by LLMs to fill out the inquiries and then feed it into the database. As I said, we are already working on reporting structure with NLPs, because I think one of the challenge with reports that we have found out that every information is managed at a different, like the time series that it takes to collect that piece of information. Different level of hierarchies have different perspective of the same information. Like a project manager looks at the project planning differently, or the whole project differently compared to the project management office, compared to the project support, compared to the sales guys and the directors. I mean, it's the same entity, but the way, the layers of information and the kind of expectations that they have out of the summary of or a culmination of the information is totally different. So that's the reason why I think we have stopped creating reports. We are creating APIs to be able to connect it with the several data visualization and data management and reporting tools, such a way. And obviously, in the modern day, we won't even need that. Maybe I don't see that be any more the case moving down the lane in maybe 4 to 5 months. Because you can just talk to your data. You can just ask it whatever you want, and then you can just yield the results. You don't need to get busy doing line charts analysis and, Pareto principles and, kind of doing pivoting and slicing and dicing the data. You can just talk to your data.
That's great. What is the learning curve for any business when it comes to ecoHQ, or learning point?
I mean, obviously, ecoHQ is not a system which is as is usable for any business unless they are replica or a doppelganger for IndiaNIC. Because obviously every business has its own system, and our systems and understanding of operations and the systems, like a system, offline systems and workflows, evolved over a period of time. But there's a lot to take away from ecoHQ out of certain, recurring use cases like HR, attendance, a base level of CRM, and then how you could take it up further for your business operations. But I think it's one piece of advice as a person sitting at the both ends of the table, one who is now defining the requirement and started out as one who is listening out the requirement and defining the base of ERP and ecoHQ along with my team, is automating a system requires a lot of heavy lifting. And you always have to start at some point. I mean, the way we got succeed is we had a strong belief that we needed a system. So I think that's a good starting point. And then patiently creating and iterating it through. You can't get everything right in the first shot. You have to build it as a Lego block, like one after the other, and then make sure that it continuously solves your problem. Like you build and observe. As I always say, inspect what you expect. So you keep on, checking out how the system behaves, how closely it relates to. I've seen people making a great software but not being able to align with the business objective or how the system needs to operate according to that. I think there needs to be a blend, and the best way to do it is solving the big rocks out first, getting to understand how the core of the business is functioning, starting to solve that out first, and then branch it out in both the ways. Sometimes you'll have to work backwards to manage the micromanagement and the tedious task and automate that. And sometimes you'll also have to take the other way around and then work on more strategic aspect of the business by creating entities. But at the end of the day, you have to identify what's the nucleus of your business and how you start managing that part. And then you can branch it out into different other aspects of the same module or entity in your business.
If it were for a small, medium enterprise, how would they go from it being a solution or having a solution? And small, medium enterprises, they do have something in place, whether it is just sheets or whether it is an external ERP that's just managing some of their ERP concerns. How do they go from a solution to the system? But then again, like you said, you need to have a system to get to the system. How to build a system with ecoHQ?
Start jotting down. Easiest way, I think, there is in the midst of all the technology stuff, the old way still works. Write on the paper what are your priorities and how you want them to operate. And you start digitizing them. Look for the clues of what the current system already has. You might have an Excel tool. You might have a third-party software. You might have an offline system. If you are working on something, you might have a system. Now start visualizing how it needs to be operating enough in an enough scalability where you think of maybe horizontal scale or vertical scale. Depends on how you operate your business. And I think what we have as an advantage, now we have covered it almost like a decade-old journey. We understand the problem. We understand how to understand the problem of another business. Because in our business itself, we have seen certain transitions in, kind of reporting structure. We went from department structure to metric structure and then to, hybrid structure. And ERP is still there. It survived through all these changes. So I think we know how to handle certain scenarios. We have proven it. We have failed 10 times. And that's an advantage because you don't have to.
Right. So basically to leverage what the learning curves instead of having to go through your own and basically being able to take, if it took you a decade to go from chapter 1 to chapter 20, it should be able to take us or a small, medium enterprise half the time to be able to leverage what you've learned.
It's too early to say half the time, but I can definitely say it can save a lot of time when you exchange ideas and discuss with us so that we can understand and define the roadmap. As I said, we are not yet another one-size-fit-for-all solution.
Right.
I think our solutions gives us a base to take some part of it, but then still do something personalized and customized for your business.
That requires a decent amount of introspection. Now, a company, if I were to use the analogy of a person looking outside of themselves for validation, so they're busy networking, they're busy, trying to get better grades or doing better, taking certifications, trying to get better at their job, all of that good stuff, while getting burnt out because they're not taking time out for themselves to introspect what are the problems. And then again, like you said, to actually identify a system that works for them, right?
I mean, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong in expecting the business right off the bat, but still got to start somewhere. I mean, obviously, it depends on how you put together pieces of puzzle and what you make out at the end of the day. It always depends on how you want to systemize the business, and no software is going to solve the problem outside in real world. It can help you solve the problem in a better way with better framework, better information, and maybe better operational workflow. Still got to deal with the world outside. But I think a good business operations system will help you look at the business more objectively, without opinions, as is. And that's where I think the real transformation will start.
My last question, or I wouldn't say it's question, it's more out of curiosity, because I've always wanted to know your side of the story. Like for me, if I would have to say this, I would say like 88% of my work being automated because of ecoHQ it really gives me, creative autonomy over my work. I'm able to, be more creative with what I do on the daily, rather than having to sit and, try to put down lists on how I need to report. So instead of worrying about the reporting part, I only worry about the creating part. But then I am at the lower end of that spectrum. But you having to be responsible for so many, and then on the same hand being accountable for those so many, how do you feel about the system? Like, what is it? If you had to answer in a percentage, like how much percentage workload do you think the system has taken off of your plate? As someone who
I cannot determine that, to be honest with you, in the percentage, because the system is breathing as I am, and the business is changing. And as I said, the perspective of looking at the business, while there are certain frameworks and benchmarks that we always have to follow, like there are certain dimensions that you always need to look at. But then there are, as you said, when you think of creativity, it's not just fine arts and paints. When you want to think creatively and want to try out something, and you want to look at the data to be looking at as a decisive factor whether you should be doing that or not. Like for example, I want to do a campaign in XYZ region or XYZ business line or a segment, or introduce a service line into some sort of industry. I need to be looking at some sort of data. So that's what the system is helping me out in terms of defining that. And I think our perspective and our goal right now is to make a system robust enough so that system drives and creates certain points to trigger where you don't have to manage yourself. It's just like calendar, once you put it in the calendar, it's going to come up, and then it's going to send you a reminder, and you can be on top of it. So that's exactly what we want in every aspect of the business. Whether it's your leave, whether it's your salaries, whether it's your project management, it's your milestones, it's your invoice, it's for customers. Something which I haven't really talked about is also being able to give that transparency and visibility to the customers and clients whom we are working with, to be able to see what's going on with their project and who is it that they're working with. Because generally they only tend to discuss to a part of the team, while rest of the team is not but it depends on what type of work that you end up doing. But at the end of the day, because sometimes they don't really, get into the micromanagement of who's doing what. They rather just want to wait for the results and, the milestones. But as I said, there are different aspects that needs to be tackled down. So we want the system to drive what you should be doing, at least a part of it, a significant part of it, if not all.
I think one thing that the system was able to do to perfection is engagement. It allows whether it's employees, internal customers or external customers, to engage in whatever way they feel comfortable in engaging. So whether, like you said, it's those clients and customers who just want to see the top level results at the end of one milestone, or whether it's those who want to feel engaged in every step of one milestone. This tool was able to, I wouldn't use the word tool, ecosystem, I think allows...
It's synonymous, because the way, that's the beauty of it. You get so many interfaces to, manage your work. not knowingly that they are connected to the ecoHQ and ERP. And that's what we have been able to do. And I think that's what is possible for any business, is to create a layer of abstraction where it still gets stuff done without friction, but it's still systemized and integrated. It's not in disarray.
I feel like there's a lot of emotional intelligence that plays into designing the system to get it to, then again, from a system to the system.
Yeah.
It's ironic how many times I've actually repeated this because it's really stuck with me when you said that. And where do you feel like the school of thought come in? Who are like the people who actually help pioneer this entire system, taking it from the solution to the system?
It's everybody. So we have a support system, and then we do a lot of brainstorming, and that's why it's a breathing system, because we are looking at, it's not siloed that the business is driven by how ecoHQ or ERP works. ecoHQ and ERP works how the business needs to operate. And that's the reason why we have several inputs. We don't get many things right at the first shot. We improvise them, we replace them, we make it better. And that's how it is. I mean, it's all a collaborative effort. And sometimes it just works out wonders.
If you had to show it to them pictorially, how, like, in where we are with ecoHQ right now, how long or what is it like to walk through?
Well, I must tell you, one thing that I can assure you, that I have a huge backlog coming up already. There are stuff that we haven't been able to pick up as much as we would have liked to, because there are, as I said, there are different dynamics that change. We have pivoted too many things as well. As we see fit, and it's our team, it's our product, it's our problem. So we have a greater flexibility. It's not a client project. So
I mean, but then again, like the fact that you have constant engagement, like you said, that your project and your problem. But then again, the fact that, have you ever thought of like whether you want to provide this as a solution to someone else outside of your business?
No, I think it's, as I said, it's always an understanding of the business problem and how the business needs certain aspect of the operations or a strategy or planning that needs to be managed. We know our business way better than anybody else. And we fundamentally believe that it's equally true for our clients. We can just understand what they want and what they need, and then we can replicate and align in the same way that we build it out for us. If we can do it for ourselves, we can do it for anybody.
Rapid fire. I'll do a quick rapid fire with you. So 3 words that come to your mind when it comes to ecoHQ. 3 words.
I think evolving, transparent, and powerful.
Powerful,
Yeah.
evolving, and transparent.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here and helping me with all of this as well.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you, and thanks for getting the best out of the conversation.